Are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle coming under mockery by Hollywood again for their lack of work? This is from Family Guy, who does a bit of about a 20-second skit about the couple and basically calls them out for being grifters, untalented, basically Instagram influencers, and Harry actually wishing he was back with the monarchy. This should not be a surprise to anyone in the slightest, but I think it's another great indicator of how Hollywood itself is even entirely confused about why Harry and Meghan exist, what their goals are, what their desires are, and what they're trying to do in Hollywood, which they have been broadly failures at, especially when it comes to Netflix, because this is specifically the deal that Family Guy calls out, going, well, here's your check for an indiscernible reason. Nobody knows why you're getting this check from Netflix. And I think Netflix is really starting to wonder the exact same thing, because they got what they wanted from Harry and Meghan for the most part, but they want more, but not what the couple is giving them. And I wonder if Netflix is just waiting for the clock to run out on this deal and hoping that they don't have to pay the couple any more for mediocre, bad content. So we are going to go over this as well, in addition to talking about Queen Rania's statement regarding what is happening in the Middle East, because it is quite interesting and I think she's lost a lot of fans. So we will discuss this all today, but if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news, sometimes some of the drama going on behind the scenes. I like to add analysis and insight to you guys. So if you want to subscribe, that would be great. I want to get to 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would love for you to click that subscribe button so you can get all the latest content. In addition, I have a newsletter, a fashion channel, and I recently launched a giveaway, so you can click the link up here to go to the video where the giveaway is, and you just have to add the little diamond emoji and share one of your favorite royal tiaras. And this is to win an Ana Lucia diamond bracelet. So they are lab created diamonds. I'm wearing my stud earrings here, which I love. And so it is a great opportunity for you to win the Limitless bracelet. I've loved the Limitless collection. Personally, I think it's absolutely lovely and fantastic. So I can't wait to see who wins. We also have a second place prize, which is this coronation bag and this Witters chocolate sampler box. So if you guys are interested in signing up for that competition, details are in the link to that video. And I also have a Tiara Tuesday video with the competition link in there if you want to go over to my fashion channel and actually enter in the competition for that one as well. And before we get into Family Guy trashing Harry and Meghan, let's talk a little bit about Queen Rania's recent comments about what is happening in the Middle East, between the conflict between Israel and Hamas, because she comes out very, very strong, pro-Palestinian in terms of what is happening to the civilians there. And I understand that to a very great extent, because any civilian casualties within a war context are always terrible, horrible things. But I also feel like if you watch the interview in its entirety, it becomes very clear after a period of time that she doesn't really want to condemn Hamas. And she, I think, is putting her country in a little bit of a precarious situation here. So go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of this here.
We are just shocked and disappointed by the world's reaction to this catastrophe that is unfolding. In the last couple of weeks, we have seen, a glaring double standard in the world. So the silence is deafening, and to many in our region, it makes the Western world complicit through their support and through the cover that they give Israel, that it is just its right to defend itself. It is a story of an occupation under an apartheid regime that occupies land, that demolishes houses, confiscates land.
But you know that you are going to come under a lot of criticism from Israel and its supporters. And I'm wondering whether you're coming out to speak.
But let me just emphasize that apartheid is a designation that was given not by Arabs, but by Israeli and international human rights organizations. This is not about, being pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. This is about choosing the people.
People are saying Hamas and what it did has brought this down on these poor people of Gaza. Do you accept that?
Well, I do not believe in the killing of civilians. We are seeing butchery at a mass scale using precision weapons. Why is it that whenever Israel commits these atrocities, it comes under the banner of self-defense, but when there's a violence by Palestinians, it is immediately called terrorism?
Well, let me ask you this. Your husband, King
There's
Abdullah.
a false symmetry because these are not two equal. One is an occupier and one is the occupied. You know, Israel is in violation of no less than 30 UN security resolutions. This is at the crux of this issue. It is not this hyperfixation on Hamas.
And so again, I want to say on both sides of the conflict, any loss of civilian life is a terrible thing. But so looking at this interview, I just have to say, I don't think I'm a fan of Queen Rania anymore. I think she lacked the ability to nuance her position in a way that both condemned Hamas and condemned the loss of life in Israel, while at also times saying, well, maybe some of the airstrikes that Israel is doing in Palestine are a bit too aggressive, and isn't the loss of life in Palestine horrendous? And so this very complex situation that she has to walk, I think she broadly failed here. And I think it's a great example of how even though you are royalty, your words do matter. And especially if you are actually the leader of your country, the words can have big impact on policy itself. And I think she will find that this interview over time ages very, very badly for her. Yes, I think in the Middle Eastern context, it will do well, but I think in the West, it won't, because there has always been a great sympathy for the Palestinian people in many, many corners of the West. But I think most people understand as well is that Israel can't really sit here and not do anything, because that'll invite further loss of life. So the bottom line here is there is no good answer to this situation, because there will be life lost on both sides of the equation. But Queen Rania, as queen, I think failed in her duty here to really walk this tightrope that she needed to walk. And she wasn't really even able in the interview to totally condemn Hamas either. So it's very, very fascinating. I encourage you to watch the whole thing. Obviously, you can have different opinions as well. But I just thought it was important to point out here that when royalty talks, people do listen, but you do have an obligation as well to make sure you're not influencing things in a negative way, which is what Harry and Meghan have done for the entirety of their royal life. They were very much ignoring royal protocol. We saw this in Morocco, where Meghan introduced herself first to the King of Morocco. She's not the blood royal, she's the spouse of a prince. She should not be up there introducing herself first to the king. It should always be Harry. There are very particular reasons why precedence is set in terms of how people interact with each other in diplomatic situations. Meghan Markle totally ignored it, because I think Meghan always thought that royalty was like Hollywood and Hallmark movies portrayed it to be, which is not the case. And so when Harry and Meghan came over to the United States to launch their post-Mexit life, they really thought that they could establish this role within Netflix and other production companies and really become a force to be reckoned with within Hollywood. And so let's see how the Family Guy situation stacks up to what initially we were told about their Netflix deal. So go ahead and actually take a listen to the Family Guy clip first.
That's fine, I'll go it alone, just like Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
Sir, your millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
So nobody knows what they're getting their money for via Netflix. That is what Family Guy very clearly points out here. And I think we can all agree, I'm sure Netflix is wondering the same thing. Because here's what Harry and Meghan said and Netflix said when the deal was first announced. Harry and Meghan said, "Our lives, both independent of each other and as a couple, have allowed us to understand the power of the human spirit of courage, resilience, and the need for connection. Through our work with diverse communities and environments to shining a light on people and causes around the world, our focus will be on creating content that informs but also gives hope." Now, have Harry and Meghan fulfilled this obligation? I would offer no, and not to mention the fact this doesn't even sound like content production. This does not sound interesting in the slightest. Why are we looking for productions that give us courage, resilience, and the need for connection? Why can't we have some escapism? I mean, that's what I'm looking for oftentimes within television shows and movies. Yes, sometimes a documentary can offer deeper things and deeper questions, and so can film production, but it almost sounds like they're talking about a foreign concept here. It doesn't even sound like a movie. It sounds like an idealized notion of a fake thing in the netherverse somewhere. And they also want content that gives people hope. Have you been hoped by any That's not really a word. But have you felt hope watching any of the productions? So I've watched 2 of theirs. Live to Lead, I didn't even, because there have been 3. There have been Harry and Meghan, the documentary, Live to Lead, and The Heart of Invictus. I've watched 2 of them. Live to Lead seemed so utterly dull that I didn't even give it the time of day. Why even bother? It was like New Year's Eve when it came out, so that's when you dump content you know is gonna suck. You just dump it right then because everybody's busy with New Year's Eve. So I didn't even bother watching it, but I went ahead and watched The Heart of Invictus and Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan, that documentary gave me no hope. It was just 2 people complaining about being royalty and how hard it is. It's so hard to live in a palace where you have obligations, you have duties. People don't let you do what you want. You can't keep freebies. That is just so hard. That was Harry and Meghan's complaining. Oh, and we were stalked by the paparazzi, but don't ask us to show any actual evidence of us being stalked by the paparazzi. We'll show you a video where we're looking randomly around the car thinking, there's a paparazzi somewhere. There wasn't. There wasn't, by the way. There was no actual paparazzi person there. So that was rather hysterical to watch, like horrendously hysterical to watch. And it was so incredibly dumb. They just had to rely on stock footage and other archival footage from other situations to actually prove their point because they couldn't prove it otherwise. Terribly, terribly bad. And so the Variety article also goes on to state, the couple will be focused on creating a wide variety of series about stories and issues that are close to their hearts, such as those that their newly formed nonprofit Archwell will highlight. Several projects are already in development, including a nature docuseries and an animated series centered on inspirational women. Guess what? I haven't seen either of those projects. And we know for certain Pearl is dead. That's the first thing they're talking about is Pearl. And the environmental project, there was something I guess Harry was working on, but was not a part of this deal. So I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but we have had no environmental docu-series to date yet. And honestly, again, the content sounds dull. It sounds like it's just going to be lectures. Who wants to listen to a lecture? It just doesn't sound interesting at all. And Netflix is looking for good content. That's what they're constantly looking for. The biggest hit you could say this year, I think probably would be One Piece, which was more of a surprise hit on the platform. You also had Wednesday last year, which was a massive hit. And so people are not looking for necessarily people to lecture at them, which is all Harry and Meghan seem to want to do. They want escapism, they want fun, which both of those series were. And so Harry and Meghan, I'm looking at this going, does Netflix care anymore? Because they're certainly not providing anything that they claim to want to sell. And it also says as new parents, of course, because heaven forbid anybody forget that they're parents. You can't see them actually with their children, but don't ever forget that they're parents. Making inspirational family programming is also important to us, as is powerful storytelling through a truthful and relatable lens. We are pleased to work with Ted and the team at Netflix, whose unprecedented reach will help us share impactful content that unlocks action. Has anybody unlocked any action via any of their stuff? No. I mean, it's been great fodder for YouTube, absolutely. But a lot of Hollywood content has been great fodder for YouTube. I found myself, because I watch actually YouTube so much more than I watch sometimes Netflix, Hulu, movies like Marvel movies or Star Wars or anything. I actually watch people reacting to content I haven't seen because it's more interesting to watch people complain about how bad things are than to actually watch the bad content. That's what a terrible state Hollywood is in. We are seeing this disintegration of centralization in Hollywood, which has been fascinating from anybody who loves entertainment like me to watch Hollywood, which was this huge bubble, like you had to break into Hollywood to be a success. But now with social media, everything's been decentralized. And as these strikes have gone on longer and longer, I feel like this platform has gotten better and better because there are people like, you know what? I sort of like that YouTuber better than I like that television show. That television show was kind of boring. They preached at me all the time. Yes, there were some funny bits, but it just wasn't great. And not that to say that everything is bad, of course not. But I think there is this change going on in society right now in terms of how we're consuming entertainment because Hollywood has gotten so far away from what made them and their content good, which was good storytelling. Hollywood can no longer do that, ergo people aren't really watching. And Harry and Meghan are a symptom of that. Again, it sounds like a lecture. It sounds dull, uninteresting, uninspired, and something where it's all about their self-indulgence rather than actually saying, We want to make content we know everybody loves and everybody's going to enjoy. We're going to take this property, like this book, we're going to adapt it. It's going to be fantastic, amazing. And we're going to give you comedy, joy, sadness, grief, all these sorts of things within the context of this story. But Harry and Meghan, they just seem to have this holier than thou sanctimonious attitude, which just doesn't fly. And then this is from Netflix itself. Co-CEO and Chief Content Officer Ted Sandros said, Harry and Meghan have inspired millions of people all around the world with their authenticity, optimism, and leadership. Okay, I don't think Harry and Meghan exhibit any of those qualities. They're not optimistic. They are complaining. They always look behind. They don't look forwards. They are not authentic in the slightest. I don't think anybody could argue they're authentic anymore. And then leadership. These two people copy every single thing they do. They have no original thought in their mind. And they're not leading anything. They're just complaining about things. Huge difference. It says, we're incredibly proud they have chosen Netflix as their creative home. We are excited about telling stories with them that can help build resilience and increase understanding with audiences everywhere. I'm gonna guess that was bad vet, Netflix. I'm gonna guess that was. And apparently, and I looked again just to double check, and I found this via Deadline, that apparently the deal could have been worth upwards of $150 million. And I don't think Netflix feels like they've gotten their $150 million worth based off Harry and Meghan the docuseries. I mean, it did well. It did well. But did it do gangbusters? No. Is anybody probably really rewatching it? Probably not. We also had Live to Lead, which totally and completely bombed. Nobody watched that thing. It was so off the radar, nobody even took the effort to watch it because it wasn't even worth it. And obviously we knew as well the content was old because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very prominent. I was like, didn't she die like 2 years ago? And so we all knew that the content was old and out of date in a lot of ways. Yes, maybe you could gain a nugget or two of leadership, but it also seemed very leftist. And so there wasn't a broad scope of people interviewed from all different walks of life. They had very particular agendas. So I think that also made it somewhat hard. And then finally we had Heart of Invictus, which I watched. I'm still not sure what the Heart of Invictus is. I'm not sure if it's Harry. I'm not sure if it's the Ukrainian team. I'm not sure it's the game itself. I'm not sure if it's any of the contestants they covered. It was a very poorly done documentary in a lot of ways because it felt like there was no tension throughout the whole thing. And any tension that they had seemed accidental, and it just fell flat, I thought. And it never made it into the top 10. It never made it into the top 10. And I'm sorry, but Netflix is not paying Harry and Meghan $150 million to have only one show ever make it into the top 10 things that people are watching. That's not what they're paying them for. And I think what Netflix actually wants is something like almost what the Family Guy is showing, is a Keeping Up with the Sussexes series. That's what Netflix actually wanted. They didn't want this carefully curated and managed image that Harry and Meghan wanted to portray all the time. They wanted something that's a reality TV show because they knew Harry and Meghan, that yes, they sort of indulged their ideas of this grand plan that they wanted to do, but Netflix is also like, you know what, we're paying you a lot of money here, and I think our time is a lot better served if you can create a Keeping Up with the Sussexes series. We want to see Lilibet, we want to see Archie, we want to see all these different aspects of your life. And I understand why Harry and Meghan said no. You guys as well needed to give Netflix something that it wanted, and none of your content, I think, is what anybody wanted except for that Harry and Meghan show. The only reason people watch that is to watch the royal drama. That was your pull. That's why you got the deal in the first place. And I don't think Netflix will be far behind Spotify in kicking Harry and Meghan to the curb, because unless they can really make a gangbuster movie or a series out of that book that that Netflix recently purchased on their behalf to adapt, I just don't see it going any further in that direction. So Netflix has, I think, a question to do. Do they keep indulging Harry and Meghan's whims, or do at some point they stop the situation? They go, this is enough. We've wasted enough time and money on you guys because you guys can't do anything. Family Guy is right. We're paying you for nothing. We don't know why we're paying you anymore. And I think Hollywood is becoming aware of that as well. And that's really, really bad news for Harry and Meghan, is that Hollywood itself is just going, why are you here? What do you want? Why are you doing any of this? None of us know why you're here. None of us know what you're doing because you're not doing anything. That's what the grand mistake Meghan made in all this situation, is that she took the title and, well, number one, they wanted their Mexit the way they wanted it, which is to be half in, half out, which they didn't get. And so when things went on, all of a sudden they got all these deals and they just wanted to trade off their royal ties and still be royals without being royals. And even Hollywood, after a certain point, is like, well, you need to actually do something. You need to be successful. Because yes, there are one-hit wonders out there, people who basically paid their way to the top. But it's really oftentimes, not always, talent and a good work ethic that gets you work continually. One of the people I think of is David Boreanaz, who he started out in Buffy, went from Buffy to Angel to Bones to, I think, SEAL Team 6. He's had 25 plus years, maybe closing in on 30 years of constant television shows. And yes, he is talented. Do I think he's the greatest actor in the world? No. Do I enjoy him? I mean, I mostly watched him on Bones, and I enjoyed him on Bones. But I think the thing is too, I think he's an easy guy to work with. And so because of that, he gets constant work because, hey, he's an easy guy to work with. He has ideas. He's willing to input. He's willing to put in overtime. He's willing to do the things that need to be done in order to make something successful. And I think that's what productions want. They don't want somebody like Harry and Meghan, who they have to talk to 12 different people before finally getting to the supreme leaders at the top. They don't want indecision. They don't want massive control by Meghan Markle, nitty-gritty things that she doesn't really need to have her hands in. And I think most of Hollywood recognizes as well is they are not talented in this field. They cannot be producers because they don't have the talent for it. They cannot be writers because they don't have the talent for it. They can't be directors because they don't have the talent for it. Even Meghan, who acted at one point, is not a great actress. She doesn't have much talent for it. So I think the only thing that Netflix is maybe looking forward to is if they do some sort of Suits reunion or rewatch or something where they can bring her back, because that is the only thing where they can go, yes, that actually performed. I would imagine Suits actually performed better than their stinking series did. And that is huge because Suits was done and wrapped and she really had nothing to do with it except for her role. And in Harry and Meghan, she had everything to do with it, and it did okay. And it was successful. It was #1 for a while, but it didn't really result in anything more. And so it just will be curious to see where Netflix goes from here. And so let's listen to the other little bits here, because I think everybody realizes this is where Meghan's true talent lies.
Put it with the rest of them.
Babe, time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post for Del Taco.
Yes, Del Taco. Del Taco on Instagram. Instagram posts. That is where Meghan Markle is successful. I think people who actually were not on TV series are more successful than her on the Instagram influencer page. But that is where Meghan Markle is somewhat a talent there, is on Instagram. That is her level. That has always been her level. It has not changed. I think Hollywood even knows it too. When Hollywood knows the best thing you can do is make an Instagram post, and that's the extent of your talent, they're sort of done with you at that point. They're like, okay, well, I mean, that's helpful, but that doesn't mean that you can star in something. That doesn't mean you can headline something and make it successful, because Harry and Meghan have headlined plenty that haven't been successful. Yes, again, I say this all the time. They generate a ton of noise, but they're not converting people. That's a problem, because you need to have not only noise, but conversion. You need people to like you enough to click to support you to watch X thing. And Harry and Meghan don't have that. They have the curiosity seekers who drop off by the end of it. And this has been their pattern again and again in Hollywood. So Instagram is their best bet. And let's listen to this last little bit.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
Yes. So even though they say the monarchy is an institution that doesn't do much, it actually does something. It has a function, much like we talked about with Queen Rania. They are diplomats. They are representatives of their country. So they have an actual job. Harry and Meghan have no job. They have no future. They have no function. That is a huge, massive, glaring issue for them, which they still continue to not address. I don't understand how the two of them, after 3 years now, still cannot seem to figure out how, and almost 4 years, how to make themselves successful as a business. They have failed at every turn, and I think they will continue to do so. And I think the last breath will be attempting to launch Meghan Markle on Instagram again. I think that is the next step. Maybe Meghan Markle will write a memoir, but I mean, honestly, does anybody care? I don't really care. I don't think anybody cares. And so, again, we have all these things. Meghan Markle and Harry have tried so much, but they fail time and time again. It's only because of Harry and Meghan that they fail. over and over again. It is for no other reason. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of Family Guy now mocking them. I think that's the thing. Everybody in Hollywood just mock Harry and Meghan. It's funny, it's fun, and hey, it works. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.